Good afternoon, dear colleagues. It's my pleasure to introduce Weronika Banksa to you today. Weronika is the president of the International Board of ELSA International, and ELSA is the European Law Students Association. Everybody studying law certainly knows the term, but those of you who don't should be informed that this is really one of the key instruments and one of the key organizations that you can use and that you should use when you're interested in a European and in an international perspective as a lawyer and as a law student. And Weronika, as I said, is heading this as president in this term. And the International Board is the supreme executive body of ELSA. It represents the association and is also responsible for the everyday running and management of the organization. Weronika, thank you for coming. Perhaps we start with you briefly introducing ELSA and the International Board to our audience.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a great pleasure for me to join you today and have this opportunity to present ELSA and some other topics also to the wider audience. So, of course, for those who are not aware who we are and what we are doing on a daily basis, ELSA is a non-profit student organization. Is led by students, for students. Is based purely on work of volunteers. So all of our members, executives, people at your universities, in your cities, but also in our national chapters and on the international level, are working pro bono in order to firstly to provide different kind of opportunities for legal education and professional development for law students. I like to say that we are trying at least to fill gaps in a curriculum. So for all of those missing parts that you cannot find at your universities for various reasons, we are trying by our projects, different kind of initiatives to cover these gaps and to provide you with full experience, to broaden your knowledge, to expand your horizons, and also to provide you with full scope of opportunities that you may find at the job market after the law school. Of course, ELSA is based on the commitment for human rights, for human dignity, cultural diversity. One of our huge priority is work in the field of social responsibility, promoting social responsibility, encouraging people to act for a good of society, and therefore trying to use our expertise and wide network of contacts with different kind of academics and also practitioners. We are trying to spread awareness, to spread legal education, the entire concept of legal education, not only amongst lawyers, young lawyers, law students, but also amongst other members of our society, just to make sure that everyone is aware about basic rights, basic freedoms. So taking into consideration that our network consists of 44 countries, we are present in all of the European countries at the moment. We have more than 400 local chapters. So there is a huge possibility that at your universities you can find one of our local chapters and simply or participate in one of our events or join us and to make sure that you are also the part of this community who is trying to make the world a better place. Of course, taking into consideration our capacity and our focuses, but yes, that's mostly the association. And of course, right now I'm the head of the international board, which means that I'm responsible for the general government, the general management of the network, and also making sure that we have the network of our stakeholders, people who support us, who provide us with expertise, with knowledge, with experience, in order to make sure that all of the events and initiatives that we are running on a daily basis are actually extremely qualitative and helpful for students. So yes, in practice, it means that I'm living in Brussels, in Belgium, in our headquarters, and on a daily basis, I'm working full-time for this association. So started with as a volunteer, ended up as a full-time executive. So quite a journey already.
Yeah, let us look a little bit more into this journey. So if I were a law student today, let's say in Vienna, and I were interested in ELSA, probably the first step I would do would be to look up at the local chapter and say hello
Yes.
there. And what would I be then expected to do? So what are the typical initiatives of a local chapter?
Yeah. So, of course, based on the country, based on the education system, because we are very much diverse in that sense, and everything is adapted to the national circumstances and to specifics of course, of the domestic law. However, we are running firstly our different academic initiatives. So, starting with some basic lectures, seminars, panel discussions on various topics, there is I think that one of the most important and the most beautiful thing in ELSA is that there's no limits. We don't have any kind of boundaries about the field of law, about any kind of topic. Of course, we are non-political, and that's the main thing. So it's all about creating a platform for free expression of different opinions, and of course, fully respectful. But there is various scope of academic events. We are also organizing various competitions to practice skills. We are leading organization in terms of moot court competitions. So simulations of court and not only court proceedings in front of different kind of bodies based on different branches of law. It's also negotiation competitions, client interviewing competitions, the mediation, legal debates, we are trying to cover any kind of skill that might be useful in the future career, and also to broaden the horizons and to provide our participants with the access to something more than just basic lectures that are included in the typical curricula. Also, there is an opportunity for practicing legal writing, because we have our law reviews. We are running legal research groups when we are trying to dig even more in the respective topic, to provide wider audience with the research, with the results of our research, and at the same time we are learning how to write and how to use legal language. On the other side, we have those professional development opportunities. So for those people who are, for example, more interested in this practical aspect of law school, and also then being a legal professional, we are organizing career fairs, different kind of workshops about CVs, motivation letters, mock interviews. We have also our traineeship program, ELSA traineeships, when we are providing students with the opportunities to expand their CV and to gather the experience from working abroad in different jurisdictions. So if someone is interested in this kind of international experience, it's also possible. But many countries are also running national traineeships program. So yeah, here once again, wide scope of opportunities. And then at the end, also all of these events that I already mentioned focus on social responsibility. So different kind of advocacy campaigns, actions. We are teaching in schools in many countries. We are organizing events. We are going to different kind of institutions, visiting them, trying to get to know how they are working. So plus, of course, the huge part of this is that, as I mentioned, there is no limits. So any kind of new idea, if there is capacity and possibility to organize it, is very much welcome.
And how does one become president then? Is this a post you can apply for, or?
Yes, this is actually a bit more complicated. However, our executive representatives are changing every year, because this is our term of office. So every year we are electing. It's very democratic procedure. So we have council meetings, local one, national ones, and also international. When our members of the association have the voting rights, and yes, they are on the local level, they are electing the local representatives. So usually 7 to 8 people that then constitutes a board, and those people are responsible for like general management of all of these initiatives. And then yes, this is mostly the path that's you start on the local level to gain this first experience as the executive, as a manager, and then there is a possibility after to run for the national board, and then even for the international. I'm one of those examples. I started as a one of the project managers at my university in Poland on the local level. Then I became the president of my local group. I've been elected for this position. Then I ran for the position in my national group, and I've been elected as a president of ELSA Poland. And after this, I decided to run for the international board. So it's mostly based on your will, efforts, and time that you want to invest in the association. And yes, very democratic, classic election procedure that you need to.
And you then end up as a president, and then you move to Brussels, as the other members of the board do, right? So
exactly.
The ELSA International is operating from Brussels, and it's Brussels because of the European Union, or is there any other reason behind that?
Actually, the entire association is registered in Amsterdam, so we are as a legal entity operating under Dutch law. But choosing the office in Brussels was strictly related with the fact that this is in the moment when this office was established, and it was in 1995. Brussels was actually the place when this entire European Union and like European unity life was to be created. And the easy access to all of the European institutions, and also the fact that Brussels by default is very, very international, multicultural environment was, and also pretty accessible from different parts of Europe. It was actually perfect choice. And also our supporters and people who were working with us and who were willing to help us in developing these kind of structures that is right now huge, were based there. And we knew that if we are going to receive help from them, sufficient amount of help from them, Brussels will be the perfect choice. And now from the perspective of many, many years being here, it was actually perfect choice, because yes, we benefit from being here.
And I would imagine, I mean, ELSA is probably one of the very few organizations which in principle at least has an overview about the legal education all over in Europe, and whether there is any need to harmonize this. And if there were any harmonization, it will probably come from Brussels, right? So
exactly.
The question to you, is there any position of ELSA when it comes to how legal education should be structured? Or in how far it should be reformed? And is there any additional point on this now due to the pandemic, perhaps?
Recently, we focused mostly on the aspect of legal traineeships in general, because we conducted a thorough research about conditions in various countries for trainees and for traineeships, also taking into consideration pandemic and the situation with online traineeships that are more and more easily introduced in different countries. But in general, taking into consideration the overview on legal education, we see the most important part, and we see the differences between countries, because we can say that in some of our national chapters, this entire transition to online education, to online reality, with having online classes but also online exams, was pretty smooth. And then we have countries that even now, 1 year later, they are still struggling, and there's still some attempts to actually go back to the physical format, and it's based on various reasons. Sometimes it's classic financial issues, that simply there is no sufficient infrastructure, but there is also a point that unfortunately the academic staff is not always ready to run all of the classes online, to provide with the knowledge online, and it took time. It took a lot of time to prepare students and also academic staff for example, online exams. I can say from the experience as a Polish student that last year, it was quite a roller coaster, because rules were changing and actually no one knew how it's going to be, and where we are going to end up. Of course, right now we see huge development. What is also important is that I think that our definition of what is impossible significantly has changed. Taking into consideration the fact that we've been hearing for many years that yes, you need to be physically present. Yes, we need to do this way because there is no other. Right now, it's not the case anymore, because or we are going to try another way for doing this, or simply something will not happen. And in my opinion, also like in our opinion, when we discuss about this and like exchange our experience, it's more than obvious that simply people put effort in adapting, and now we can actually benefit from this. This is also one of the reasons why, if we are talking especially about universities that they're teaching law, not many of them are like so like eager to actually go back to the physical format. Right now, when I'm talking with our partners, our educational partners with different universities in Europe, many of them actually are saying that it might be quite tricky, because this online education, legal education, actually opened a new door and the new era for accessibility of legal education. So, for example, people, especially for those universities who are focusing on different kind of international programs, on LLMs, and like welcoming international community of students, they see that based on the fact that costs are reduced, that it's not necessary right now to change the country, to move, and then once again bear with this day-to-day financial management. It allowed students from also with like less favorite financial situation to expand their education, to take these opportunities, because actually costs were reduced mostly to this fee for studying itself, and that's it. So if you ask me about perspective, I can see that definitely these online courses already introduced, it will be a thing to stay, because it's too beneficial in some areas to give up on this so quickly. We are not technicians in that sense that we do not need I don't know, some kind of laboratories or any kind of, we do not need so many practical aspects of our studies in legal education. So so in that sense it is for us sometimes even more feasible. And also what I see, it's about definitely the future, I think, of hybrid events. Right now, people are very much uncertain about this, also about technical aspect of it, but very much eager to go more in depth and to see if there is a possibility. And if we are talking about the topics and how to cover the stuff, well, online reality actually showed us once again that if we want, then world does not have borders. Then this entire problem with distance and with the fact that we are based in country X, it's not an issue anymore. And if we want, we can actually communicate, connect, and work on everything what is transnational. So I see right now that this is one of the directions to follow to anything, this entire development of comparative studies, transnational, but also to go into all of the digital aspects, because we also face that our systems are not always ready for all of the threats, dangers, and like new challenges that are coming with online reality. And now what we see is also more and more introduction of discourses focused on digital aspects of our reality from the legal point of view. Even the entire programs, the entire courses focused on digital aspects of human rights enforcement, digital aspects of rule of law, digital aspects of economy. It's actually becoming more and more common. People are interested in it. And then, yes, this is, I think, right now, like the most prosperous and in the same time the most innovative direction, when, at least from our perspective, legal education is following.
Yeah, there is plenty of interesting stuff in what you're saying. I will try to ask the most important questions that come to my mind. So the first one in particular is, I mean, this what you're I'm very impressed by the positive picture that you're drawing, and I really appreciate the positive approach that you have. However, if you look into the reality, for example, by talking to someone who is in charge of, I don't know, an Erasmus program or an international students exchange or so, you will certainly learn very quickly that there are all kinds of organizational, legal, administrative, etc. hurdles in this on this way, such as that students are requested to move physically into their Erasmus location, or teaching staff is obliged to stay on site instead of moving around when they have a contract with a specific university, and so on. So that's the first question. Does ELSA have any any agenda, any bullet points, or any requests to make here to make the situation easier? That would be my first point. And the second point is quite related to that one. Is I also appreciate, and I'm probably one of those who really fully support this idea, that that one could think about digital aspects of this or that legal domain as a new subject. So having in university teaching environments something like, I don't know, digital human rights instead of just human rights, right? But that would certainly require also, again, quite some changes in the national curricula or in the university curricula. So my question to this would be, is there anything you are pushing here in a way that it's not just a nice interview that you are having with me, but that it's also something which is more more materialized, I would say. And then the third question, connecting the two, is there anything that you think needs to be changed when it comes to the overall structure of again, legal education in Europe, which is still, at least in my perception, outstandingly national in its tradition and also in its subjects when you compare it to many other domains? And is this something where ELSA has a point of view? And all these 3 points, how do they come together, and what exactly is ELSA doing in this? Is it just, is it trying to convince people, or are you trying to lobby somewhere in Brussels? And is this one of the reasons why you are in Brussels?
So starting with the mobility and these entire issues with the Erasmus, we are not working like on Erasmus itself, because this is the field of interest of other youth organizations. However, of course, the issue with mobility refers also to us. As I mentioned, we have our own traineeship program that is based on organizing international traineeships. And yes, in that sense, when pandemic has started, we actually faced huge issues, because how to maintain the program in the situation when people actually cannot travel, how to discuss with our partners, with the traineeship providers, with different kind of public institutions, law firms, to talk with them about the future of the program when the travels are banned. So in that sense, what we are trying to do and what we implemented and what we are advising everyone around, to each and every one of us, it's actually to strongly negotiate. Because, for example, we adapted our contracts and simply convinced to go for online traineeships, so to not be in the position that you need to leave your country, you need to move on site, even if you are going to work online because you cannot access the office premises because it's forbidden. You still need to be in the country. It's not really fair. It's not beneficial. So it's like we decided to take this step and to simply negotiate this with our partners on behalf of our trainees, and simply with those who don't want to agree on that terms, or they are demanding like physical presence, then yes, like cooperation is not continued, because like we cannot simply put our members and our trainees in danger of such situation that they need to choose between moving to a country and putting in danger their health or getting a professional experience. So, but yes, there is still many countries and many universities that they are traditional in that sense, that you have to, because this is how we do this, and thank you. That's why also as ELSA we are mostly let's say, separate organizations. So we are not equally involved in this entire process of governance. However, our members are also mostly very, very actively engaged in different kinds of student councils, student unions. So they are part of the student voice at the universities. And then we are trying, of course, to simply to take part in the domestic processes of internal management, and just to make sure that that actually the conditions will be feasible for students to notice. We have, I cannot tell you about like concrete, like if it's like purely positive results or purely negative, because it very much depends. We have countries when it actually works and when people are simply quickly adapting to all of the changes. And then we have countries, let's say, with the a very, very narrow-minded perspective from different reasons, and there it's harder. However, student mobility in general is right now hurts a lot, and we also see this. All of our international projects that demanded physical presence have been cancelled. Our internal meetings have been cancelled. So what we did is we simply transformed almost everything into online format. Of course, experience is not the same, but for us, we are trying, to not make the experience identical. We are trying to make this equally beneficial from various reasons, because in other case there will be no point of existing. Another question, can you please remind me?
There was this question about in how far the curricula would need some change and harmonization.
Yes, the issue with harmonization is actually it's a fact. It's a huge issue that we also acknowledge, taking into consideration. I come from the country where legal education is based on a unified system of 5 years of law school. There is no bachelor, there is no diploma in between. So, for example, when we want to apply for international traineeships, and once again, our partners are demanding from us a diploma that you have at least bachelor, we are just like, yeah, I am after 3 years of my studies, but that's it, because this is the system of my country. So once again, what we are trying to do is that we are negotiating criteria with people and trying to make sure that if someone does not have a diploma, because in this respective country it's impossible to have a diploma because there is nothing like this, then simply the proof that someone achieved this level, like this number of years already, it's sufficient enough to be eligible to apply for something. I think that the issue is that Europe, after introducing ECTS points, stated that, okay, we did our job in terms of unification. That is not really the point, because of course it helps and it's great. However, we can still proceed. There is a huge difference between, and I used to say, and of course this division is very, very general. So to have like Western Europe and the countries where you are kind of specialized in the field of law that you want. So bachelors are still general, but then when you go for LLMs, when you go for master, you choose the field of law that you want to specialize in. And then you have countries like, for example, Poland and the system for us, when we learn literally everything, any kind of classes, and then our knowledge is of course more general, because yes, we heard about everything. However, are we specialists in something? Not really. And this cause like this situation causes a lot of issues, because let's give once again an example. If I'm going to make a decision that I want to stay here in Belgium and to, for example, to work as a lawyer, in theory, I graduated, I have a diploma, but in practice, I've been taught Polish law in Polish, that I'm actually right now capable to work only in Polish jurisdiction. So if I want to stay here and start something international, I'm starting from the scratch. And that's the issue, because we have countries that are super internationally oriented. From our perspective, Belgium is this kind of country, the Netherlands is this kind of country. When this number of international courses, it's huge one. And then you have countries way more conservative. And for these people, if they want to be more internationally minded, if they are interested in this kind of opportunities, mostly they need to look for it on themselves. And it's their initiative, and they are joining different kind of associations or simply attending different kind of events organized by various institutions. So it's based purely on their initiatives and their research. So definitely in the scope of harmonization, we are also running every year like legal research groups about different kind of topics, different branches of law. And we also see that it's not because the content of the project is one thing, because of course the difference between national regulations are obvious, but there is a different let's say environment policy in Balkan countries than in Scandinavia. That's given. However, we see that our people who are researchers, our students coming from different countries, have completely different approaches, because when in Scandinavian countries there is like huge focus on this, and there's huge emphasis, and every student has some kind of experience with it, then we have countries when there is like completely extraordinary, and there is no way actually to find a common ground, and then one group needs to catch up and the other needs to wait for them a bit, because this is the difference. So so in that sense, also of course we are trying to make sure, and on the European level there is a system that yes, we're supposed to be able to go with our European diploma everywhere. In theory, yes. But in practice, curricula is not adopted at all. So as I mentioned, it's a huge general assumption. It's a very much general conclusion. But in that sense, issues are definitely here. But on the other side, it's quite problematic to start actions that will be international, because taking into consideration how the universities operate and how countries operate, usually they have more or less autonomy. And in that sense, internationally, of course, it's mostly from our perspective is about raising awareness that something like this exists and you can change it. And it's more about empowering people and teaching them how to use their national measures, their national tools, national or sometimes even local, to start the change on the basic level, on the level 0 at the universities, and simply bring it further, mostly in the countries, because in other case there is simply an answer, but yes, you need to be aware that we have different specifics, different characteristics. So diversity is nothing but. And I agree, diversity is nothing but. However, sometimes diversity cannot prevent unity in the aspects when there is necessary. So, so this is what we do as ELSA mostly in that sense, to teach people how to start. This is also why we have a big focus on advocacy. And in the advocacy, it's not only about choosing specific topics, but simply about teaching skills, about practicing their skills and teaching people how to make use of everything what they have available. Because of course, different situation will be in our national chapter in Azerbaijan, and different situation will be in our national chapter in Germany. So in that sense, that's why it's also not easy. That's why it's also extremely time consuming. But yeah. And the third question?
Yeah, that was about the change in the subject. So digital and human rights and so on. But digital is perhaps just one example. Obviously, it could also be COVID, or it could be I don't know, international whatsoever. So
In subjects in general, in curricula, there is like we are also running pretty frequently different kind of surveys amongst our students to ask about their expectations and what they see as issues at the universities. And there is one aspect that is repeated everywhere. It doesn't matter if it's like Central Europe, Western Europe, Eastern Europe. It's practical aspect. Legal education is extremely theoretical. We learn by heart stuff, we learn books, we learn codes, and then, of course, once again, there are some universities, there are some great examples, but if we are going for general assumption, unfortunately, we are lacking like given by default in curricula opportunities to actually practice, to check if we actually understand what we read and how we can apply this. This is a huge issue because students feel that, of course, they know the law, but then when you receive a real case, when you have in front of you like a real person who is not bringing you the case that is ideally feasible for this article or this article, then the problem starts. And of course, we can then say that traineeships are necessary, that very, very quick contact with the professional world already during law school is important, yes, but this is another issue also, like the quality of traineeships, and if we are going to public institutions, to private law firms, we are still unfortunately fighting with this stereotype of students making coffee or having a PhD in making copies of the document, because this is like mostly we are still there, even if situation is getting better and better. But it's not only this, because also our curriculum, academic curriculum, supposed to be focused more on this kind of practical aspects, on doing simulations, on teaching people not only how to solve cases, because yes, we've been taught how to solve cases, but then how to write legal documents, basic contracts. We have and as a project manager, like after 5 years in this association, I heard so many times the opinion of our different kind of speakers and trainers that we invited for the events of the association, where people are saying that our participants, they have no clue about basics, and that there is like no possibility to actually discuss something further, because basics are still not there, and basics supposed to be provided by the university. So right now, of course, many institutions are introducing this kind of like extraordinary classes for people who want to, but in our opinion, it's supposed to be the elementary part of the curriculum. Plus, also would be nice to see more and more support for also those people who want to do more, because I understand, and we all understand, that changing the curriculum is not so easy, and you need staff, and you need people who will run this, and money and everything, but there is also a possibility to support some kind of extraordinary activities. So people are running in competitions, people have their own ideas for doing researches, for organizing different kind of stuff, and it would be also nice to hear from our people that they are not struggling with finding professional support. That even if curriculum is lacking something, but then we can cover this somehow in a different way. And once again, situation is getting better, but still we have countries where, let's say, like example of Poland, a few years ago, so like the phrase moot court competition was actually like completely unknown. It was a foreign language. How to connect two dots, and right now it's ELSA who is filling this gap. and trying to make sure that people are more and more aware. So in that sense, these practical aspects, and literally it's everywhere, less theory, less learning by heart, more also access provided by university to real life, to practical world. And this is also another thing that maybe we're supposed to focus more on cooperation with the practitioners, because it's tough to go to the professor who's been doing this for 30 years already, to tell the person, now you need to change it. So we can still have people who are perfectly specialized in the theory, at the same time providing the opportunities not only to talk and to get to know advocates, attorneys, prosecutor, judges, but also have the classes led by them. And this is, I think, the issue of public institutions, because in private universities we see more and more classes like this. But at least from my perspective, and of course, we can disagree on that. But from my personal perspective, in public universities, there is still this kind of tradition that you need to have, like the academic title and being a professor, because in other case you are not entitled to be the member of the university academic staff. So yeah, if these people are ready to provide us with practitioner aspects, then we are very much in favor, and we are very much okay. But if not, then just don't be afraid of bringing like externals in that sense, because in our opinion, it can be only like added value to our curriculum.
Good, Weronika. Let me just ask one question a little bit more precisely, perhaps. And all this, what you're telling me, this is in a way your opinion as a president, but is this put into some kind of policy paper? Or do you follow a bottom-up approach so that it's up to each regional chapter to decide on how these points should be made? Or is there a paper I can look into, which is the point of view of ELSA on how legal education should be reformed in the 21st century? And are you pushing this or lobbying this in Brussels? Or not? That's the question.
For now, there is nothing international, because we focused most in order to achieve more like national goals. We decided to go to start with the bottom and to simply teach people how to do this. So internationally, no. However, in the legal education, what we are doing internationally is our research project that I already mentioned on legal traineeships that we are currently finalizing in these kind of conditions. So what are the requirements? What is required from the students? What are the conditions of their work, and what kind of postulates we have to change actually the situation and to improve it. It was run in different countries by our students, so different legislations, and it's going to be simply comparative research who will be published hopefully this year, because right now we are adding the last part focused on these online opportunities based on situation with COVID and how different national legislations applied to this. And did something change, or maybe nothing, and we are still struggling. But on legal education, as I mentioned, not for now, because these differences are too big, and to find like the one or even 10 directions that will be actually possible to achieve. And also taking into consideration that this level of development, it's simply different. Then that's why on the international level, so far, at least in the recent history, because we have the examples when ELSA was actually pushing for something like this. But in the recent history, no, we are focused mostly on our national and local campaigns to try to change our closest environment and make sure that we are improving the quality of it for our students and our members.
Yeah. Would you perhaps mind to give another specific comment perhaps on how exams are organized, and anything that you consider that should be changed or has already changed because of the pandemic, and whether there are similar national differences there as well?
We see that in general in the exams, there is many exams were transformed into test format, and once again, good or bad depends on the preferences. But yeah, also there is an issue, of course, with the fact that many exams were in the classic like written format, so essays or different kind of like solving cases, etc. We see that people are actually struggling with organizing something like this online, because how to ensure that people will be doing this on their own without any external support in that sense. So with organizing tests, it's easier because we have platforms, we have solutions, technical solutions for this when you cannot change tabs, etc. There is also, once again, I think maybe it's just for me it's kind of like a renaissance, but maybe it's because of my national experience. But we also see in general in Europe that people are going back to oral exams, so to not sit in the class and simply write something, but to have those meetings. But yeah, here once again there is an issue of schedules and the fact that of course it's more time consuming, because this like our those professors or any kind of academic assistants, whoever is the one leading the subject, this person must be available to actually sit and listen and ask these questions and make sure that everyone had a chance. But once again, we are going back to this. Of course, the biggest struggles are mostly with people who think that changes are impossible to make. Because it's for this subject, for this field of law, it must be in this format, because in other cases it's not sufficient. And here there is a bit of a clash of interests, because of course exam must be conducted somehow, and then in which format. And once again, opinions are actually really divided, because we have academic staff that says that for us, it's perfectly okay to have it online. So even if we are going to be soon or not soon back in the campus, there is a chance that we will simply leave some kind of online opportunities to check the knowledge. Because for us it works. And then we have this part more conservative that actually still fighting for having these exams. Right now, I was having the conversation with my friends in Poland who said that once again another exam session is coming, and once again it's the same discussion. Is it going to be a possibility for at least some subjects, to have like a physical exams when you sit in the class and write something? So in that sense, like the issue with tests is mostly the fact that many people think that they are not sufficient. So it's simply the quality, it's lower, because you cannot check this kind of flexibility of knowledge. Sometimes it's just luck or so it's not that broadened. However, for now, in terms of exams, it's mostly decision of the of each professor or like academic teacher to choose the format. So it's very various. I was lucky enough that my exams were pretty okay, but it's also here is also we see huge thing with the number of complaints, because people are struggling with access to the internet, platforms are lagging, like tests supposed to appear, and then because of the fact that teachers are trying to make sure that it will be like a tough, to cheat or to provide yourself with any kind of external support, there are some measures. So for example, question is available for you only for 30 seconds and you are answering and you cannot go back, and then the next one. And then there is a drama because people are losing internet, and what if, and they are failing exams. So, but in like, you cannot avoid this at the end. It's technical issues. And even if you have everything prepared and everything is stable, still some universities are going for this e-learning platform. So to not use like a classic communicators, but to develop something on their own, and still technical issues are the thing. So Yeah.
But if I may, without, I was just asking, not criticizing,
Yeah.
my question to this would be, I mean, wouldn't be ELSA in the perfect position to make some kind of statement on this in the name of all the European law students, saying after a year of the pandemic, there is a requirement, which is students should be able to do their exams without any disadvantages, and it should be possible to do this remotely. And I don't know what you might expect as a political point. So when I'm really wondering, because when I remember my youth and my role as a student many years ago, it was absolutely standard that all kinds of student organizations made their points, and also European student organizations made their points about how they thought that studies should look like. And in my perception, this has disappeared in a way, right? So your generation, in a way, I don't know, behaves sometimes as if all this was set in stone, right? And as if you couldn't at least ask for change as a movement. And my question would be, isn't ELSA the one that is perfectly fit for this? And are you, and if so,
yes, I agree.
If
I
so,
agree.
maybe expect something coming from there.
I fully agree that ELSA is actually, it is the platform, it is like the voice. But the issue here is that on the international level, so to whom actually direct this? Because when we are struggling with the fact that it must be, for example, in English,
to the commission, sorry,
to the commission, to the commission, yes, yeah. To the commission.
However, I mean, it wouldn't be that difficult to ask the commission. I mean, everyone is asking the commission to do something.
Exactly.
Right? Why not the law students, right?
Everyone is asking commission, and for us, it's at least for now, it was mostly the matter of like choosing your battle, in the sense that, of course, we can organize like a big international thing, go to the commission and make it public, and try to fight like from the top. And then you are going to have simply countries who will say, yes, of course, but we have our autonomy, we have our freedom to choose what kind of system we are going to have. And for us, it's not about us, because our students are not complaining. So taking into consideration our experience, and also the fact that we also understood for like quite a long time that it might be overwhelming also for the staff and universities to actually get to know. So the moment when we see that, okay, situation is going to be prolonged and we are going to stay in this reality for longer, this is actually the moment when we started to consider, okay, maybe we're supposed to do something more, because for the last year it was mostly focused on like this punctual actions, because from our perspective and from our experience, those are the ones that are successful, because then you have no possibility to say, no, it's not for us, because for us everything is okay. When your students are complaining, when your students are approaching you, when your students, and also another thing, no one is going to tell you that measures are not feasible. Yes, we would love to, but we cannot. When our students are coming to us and saying that these specific measures are not enough, and we, based on our experience and on our knowledge about the university and internal management processes, we are suggesting you to do this and this and that, then you cannot really object, because this is purely realistic, those kind of smart goals, that everything is adapted to the circumstances. There are some plans also to focus, and right now we are going to organize an event about the quality of education, also including online education, and to somehow transform the results of this event into something more consistent, in the sense, or policy paper or this kind of stuff, and together in collaboration with other youth NGOs try to bring some change, and try to somehow advocate also at the international level, because we see that situation, unfortunately, is not going to be solved soon. However, for now, it's mostly in the matter of plans, because life taught us that if we want to be heard, then we need to simply target audience really, really well. And this kind of bottom up initiatives working way more efficient. We have the case of Malta when this kind of actions actually worked. We have the case in UK also students are doing this on daily basis when it's necessary. And
you mean asking for digital formats, or what
asking for digital formats, asking for changing the formats of the exams. Also, my Polish experience, many universities are doing this, and then ELSA is or like the leading voice, or supporting student council, student unions, in that sense, simply joining that. Yes, it's like more of us, people who are actually concerned, people who are your subjects of your actions are concerned, and we are here bringing the change. Because for the changes in the system, there is always a need, and there will be time for it. However, taking into consideration also the fact how slow this process is, we see the need to introduce some more urgent actions, because we don't have time to wait for countries, for Commission to produce guidelines, then for countries to implement, to think about this. We need something that will let us to have like fair studies. I can say that like during my 5 years of law school, it was so many changes that, to be honest, I don't remember, like my generation, my year, don't remember the moment when it was normal, in the sense that nothing was changing and everything was set. And this is our reality. So taking into consideration that, and I was the one who was actually studying 5 years, because it's an obligation. When we have countries, when bachelor is 3 years and then you are disappearing, there is, if you want to actually benefit from this, and this is what students want, to bring the change, but then be able to benefit from this. Because of course, like more long-term perspective is also very much in place. However, this is like kind of a natural consequence of these urgent actions, that we need the change now, and in the smaller aspect, and then all of the smaller changes will constitute, hopefully in the future, the general amendment of the university reality. That's why we simply see that if we want to have the results now, we need to simply make sure that what we propose, it's easy to digest by the management, and actually possible to implement, because in other case it will be simply, no, it's impossible, and you need to adapt. And what if we don't want to adapt anymore because it's unfair, or because of the fact that some people cannot adapt? And yeah, that's the reason why. But if situation is not changing, so these discussions about doing something bigger, more advanced, are developing more and more, because it will be a need for this, definitely.
Yeah, I think we share expectations here. I think it will. I mean, we will not come back to normal in the sense of pre-COVID in the near future, and therefore. It probably was a little bit naive, and perhaps it still is naive, to expect that everything will be as it was before, right? So, yeah. Weronika, I really appreciate this communication, but it lasts now already almost an hour, so I don't want to spend too much of your time. But I would therefore slowly like to close this, but not without asking you whether there is anything that you still want to deliver, a message that you still want to deliver, or anything that you want to share with our audience on that is of specific importance from your point of view.
I think that my message, if I can say my message that I would like to share with everyone, is actually to not be afraid of doing something. because we are the best examples that if you simply want and if you put energy and efforts, the change will come sooner or later, bigger or smaller, but only if we decide to actually to take the initiative. Someone has to take the initiative. No one is going to do this for us. And if we want to change something around ourselves, no matter what it is, if it's going to be the complete restructure of the entire system, or simply providing with more value or with more benefits for our close group of friends, is a perfect moment to do so. Pandemic and the current situation is tough. It's demanding for everyone. But at the end, it's also our years, our youth, our life, and we need to be the ones who are personally deciding on it and also trying to enjoy it, no matter what is happening around. So simply to not be afraid of this change, to not be afraid of adapting, and simply taking on this challenge, because the satisfaction in the moment when actually you can see the first results, it's priceless to anything else. So simply to do something, something more for the others.
Thank you. That was a very positive and very active approach. Thank you so much, Weronika, for coming. Thank you to our listeners. All of you, please stay connected, please stay interested, and most importantly, stay as healthy as possible. All the best to all of you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.